Welcome to Gun Owners of America State of the Second podcast. I'm Kailey.
And I'm John, and today we're joined by Alyssa and Tanner, the GunnyGal and Tanner. I don't know. Do you have a name that you go by?
The behind the camera
Well,
guy.
he used to actually be called Gunny Gunner. So that's where I got my name from. But he doesn't go by that anymore. So,
Yeah.
Tanner.
Well,
We appreciate you being on with us. We're going to start off with rapid fire questions. We're going to ask you 5 questions. You go ahead and answer them for us. Let's see. What was your last impulse buy?
Ooh, I know yours.
yeah, mine. Yeah.
Yours was the...
We'll talk about yours.
Oh,
I'll talk about mine.
well, I'm trying to think. What was it?
I think it was probably optics.
Yeah,
You
probably.
I think pistol optics was yours
Yeah,
on Utah
That was
Gun
probably
Exchange.
the
You
last
had me
one.
go get.
yeah,
So there's that.
yeah.
Optics for her, guns for me.
Of course it's gun
I got
related.
the BNT APC 223. That was mine. She's much more responsible. I don't think about the planning of optics and
And
accessories.
a lot of his are like larger buys.
Yeah.
They cost a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
fair.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So TikTok or YouTube?
YouTube. Yeah.
Hands down.
What is your go-to EDCs?
Mine's kind of boring. It's a Glock 48. No optic, no nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of boring. Sometimes I switch it up a little bit.
Say that's like your default. The one you enjoy the most when it's like colder out here is probably the Staccato C2.
Yeah. Well, we sold that recently,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
traded that.
But yeah, in the winter, I did like to wear that. Wear that one because you can in the winter.
Can get out of the jackets.
What do you wear nowadays?
It's typically this Atomic 6, just like a carbon fiber Glock. We've been spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
So I kind of rotate out. I would say like the one I go back to is probably that one the most, which is like a Glock 19 format with the comp. I've been rocking actually the Hudson a little bit and the Zev, but yeah, I guess that's
You like to
it.
switch it up.
Who is the YouTuber you're most likely to binge watch?
Oh, there's a lot. Oh, man. Okay, I like 1911 Syndicate. That's probably my favorite.
That's solid.
There's a lot out there, though. There's
Yeah.
some good ones. Yours, I know who
Hold on.
yours is.
Answer it.
No, who
Yeah,
yours
I
is?
want to see if you're right.
Forgotten Weapons. Ian McCollum.
100%. That was my
Yep.
answer.
That's his.
100%.
Yep. He
I
likes
got
to
a touch
geek
of the
out.
tisms.
Yeah.
Now, 1911 Syndicate, is it just Chris you watch because of the beard, or is it everybody?
Everybody. Yeah. I do like Chris, though, but everyone. Yeah.
Chris is a good friend. I had to poke fun at him a little bit.
His beard's great. It's something I can aspire to be.
Oh, yeah. He's trying.
Yeah. Got the Amish, the Bream Young going on. So,
What is the most underrated prepping item?
Ooh. It's a good question. Do you have an answer?
I think I got one.
What?
I think it's food.
Yeah.
Probably long-term food supplies.
Or water,
Water.
honestly.
Yeah.
That's probably
Water.
big one.
I feel like food you can condense. So it's like a better practical one. Maybe water is the one because water, you can't compact water, you know?
yeah.
It's got to be food or water because that's the
I got to say water.
basic necessities.
Yeah. Because a lot of people think about the food. I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people think about the water.
First aid's cool. Guns are cool. Food's not cool.
Is that 5?
It's cool.
Wow, that was 5. Cool. Well, that was rapid fire. I lost count. I thought that was 4. See him.
That's how numbers work.
My public school education there.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and dive into the meat and potatoes of this. Kind of tell the folks who you are, what you do, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm Alyssa Seymour. I mainly have a YouTube channel. That's kind of like the main thing that I do right now. Also active on Instagram, but it's basically content creation, kind of along the lines of firearms competition, education, concealed carry, kind of a little bit of everything. And then Tanner here, he's my husband, and he does a lot on like the editing side of things. And you can talk about yourself.
No, you go. I don't feel like you capped off.
Oh.
Got a lot going on.
Oh, about myself?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What else do I say? That's pretty much it.
Yeah. When I picked you
In
up,
a nutshell. In a
you're
nutshell.
like a physical you compete in not only guns but CrossFit too, and
Yeah.
that space.
Kind of fitness and firearms. So
Yeah. So and then I'm the guy behind like the camera most of the time. I work for brands on and off like Porsche AG and a lot of like independent subcontracting for rallies. So I get to do a lot of rally content. Big car guy, dragging her into that too. So, but yeah, also I shoot a lot of commercial stuff, as kind of Ben alluded to earlier before we hopped on. But I shoot a lot of commercial stuff in the firearm space. So I've been shooting commercials for I think almost like 8 years or so. So still kind of mediocre at it, I say, but but yeah,
you're pretty good.
She was started uploading stuff on YouTube and kind of roped me into this. And I was like, all right, perfect. I get to do this with my best friend now. So I'm like, it's pretty exciting. But yeah.
That's awesome. So I love that, you're kind of bringing in a lot of different worlds between firearms and cars and CrossFit, but they're all very, intertwined and interwoven.
Oh, yeah.
What has been the response that you've seen from the communities that might not necessarily be all firearms all the time, but definitely, firearm adjacent?
Yeah, I'd say as far as like the fitness side of it, people like to feel strong and people like to feel like they can handle their own. So I feel like that has to do with firearms in a way, especially when it comes to women. We can talk all about that as well. And that's kind of one thing I've kind of leaned into is I like to feel strong in the gym. I like to be able to deadlift 300 pounds or whatever, right? And so I also like firearms because I feel like I'm strong and empowered in a way, right? And then you can kind of talk more about the gun or the car side of it.
Yeah.
But that's been an interesting kind of mix because there's a lot of people who are into cars and guns, but there's some people who are kind of off-put with guns in the car world. So
yeah, she mentioned earlier I had to change my moniker, I guess, Instagram account. So as I developed more into the car world and started doing more things internationally, guns have always been like a passion of mine, but definitely were put in the background just because I just had to play my cards right, and make sure that like I wasn't only guns and siloed into firearms and hunting spaces. Because in kind of the creative world, as you work with larger brands and as you work with larger teams, you kind of have to. It's political. It's all connections and politics at times, and so you have to kind of play it agnostic a little bit. And then I recently, especially, have been like kind of posting more about guns and the stories, and kind of getting more back into it, trying to really show just how much of a lifestyle it is for us, and rather than being upfront to a which I love and respect, I try to show more of a different side of firearms, where it's the hobbyist, the enthusiast side, the fun side, the creative side of things for me, and try to get people we'll call it on the firearms team from a different perspective, that they may have this perception from the news of what firearms ownership is like. But then they meet me, a good friend. I've developed relationships now at this point for years. And I kind of come out, or whatever, as a firearms enthusiast. And it's actually kind of funny. We got some friends in Poland who, consider themselves the Texas of Europe. And they're all excited. Every time we post something in the stories, I've got a buddy, Pavel, who's just like, hell yeah, brother, it's just so cool, and he's all about it. But, the car world's interesting. Like there's something about cars too. I think every gun guy in some degrees, outdoorsman, overlanding, car enthusiasts, there's a lot of overlap there, especially here in the States. But internationally, it's kind of interesting seeing the reception to it, because we could go on a whole thing about it, but there's a lot more Europeans that you'd be surprised are into guns and have guns, which I didn't find out until I started kind of merging the two, and posting more about her stuff and her stories and stuff like that. It's really shocking just how the two actually do blend, cross cultures, cross the world. I've got some buddies in Thailand who are asking questions about guns. which was awesome. But I'm probably going too long into it. But there's just a lot. There's a lot of stories I have kind of about that. Also spilled my shirt, but sorry about that. I didn't realize it.
But even like bringing it kind of more closer to home, like both of our families aren't like gun people.
Yeah.
And so kind of seeing them watch us kind of get into all of like guns and competitions and going out every weekend, it's been interesting to see their reactions to it. But they're very supportive of it, and we've gotten some of them. We've bought some guns for them. We've taken them out shooting, so it's just fun to like kind of see them get into it as well.
We've definitely introduced a lot of people we didn't expect to into guns from ways that we didn't expect, and it's not a political thing. It's just like, I don't know. It's just a enthusiast thing.
Yeah, you brought up getting people into the space, and that's a big thing with GOA is that on ramp into getting into the Second Amendment space. The thing that I also want to touch on, you brought up overlanding, and I feel like that's the biggest crossover between guns and cars that we're seeing is the overlanding community kind of getting into it. What do you think about that? Do you think that's the next space? Should firearms manufacturers start making more stuff for overlanding companies, or vice versa?
I feel like that's more of a you question. You probably have a better answer for that.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a ton of crossover. I can name a ton of CEOs who I know who are huge gun advocates in the overlanding space. You know, that community, we had a Tacoma and built it out, and I was working for a few brands who were mainly in the Toyota space at the time. I think there's a sense, like, especially here in the States, we have to keep, like, I always have this different perspective. But, you know, we have such vast land to do whatever we want here. And when you get in a truck or, you know, SUV and whatever, and you're going out and you're in no man's land, there's something about having a gun with you at the side where it's like, you know, come cougars, come bears, come whatever, because you'll face that stuff if you go out to the right places. Like, there's that sense of protection that you can offer, but also, again, the sense of fun where it's like shooting desert trash or whatever you want to call it. Like, there's just a fun activity about shooting that it's just something to take with you. You know, pack the rifle up and a couple rounds of ammo, and then go out camp, shoot in the morning. You know, have a
freedom.
Yeah, have a nice, like, that's freedom. You know,
yeah.
Like, that's like that's the American dream. I think in extent is going out and do whatever you want. So. But to answer your question, like, is there overlap? Absolutely. I think we see a lot of companies making like truck safes and quick accessible accessories for like back of your seats and stuff like that for firearms. A lot of those companies actually have overlanding gear or experience in that overlanding space or come from the overlanding space. Even I know a few cases of guys who were working for like a company like CBI or something who made roof racks and then spun off in their own company who make firearms safes for trucks or for vehicles. So absolutely. I think the merging of the two is kind of gray area. But you wouldn't be surprised at how many like people in those companies who are making gun specific truck accessories are actually sub companies of like an overlanding brand or something.
Recently started blowing up on YouTube. You know, what made you want to do YouTube? What's that look like being a female on YouTube talking about gun stuff?
Yeah. So we first kind of blew up off of just like shorts, like cell phone footage, like cringy stuff. So if you go back and look at it, it is cringy, but that's kind of how it started. And then I really wanted to start pushing towards like long form and more educational stuff. So that's kind of what we've been really focusing on at the start of this year. Like right after SHOT Show is kind of when we like hit the ground running with that. But it's been interesting being a female because I feel like you're in that space. I feel like there's either like the gun bunny or there's like LEO military, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I am, you know, I don't have a LEO or military experience, and then I don't like to be portrayed as a gun bunny. So I'm like trying to kind of find that like middle ground of being able to appeal to anyone. It doesn't have to be females too, like just average civilians, men or women, just because that's the majority of Americans out there who are into guns. And so just being able to bring information that anyone can watch and understand. sometimes I feel like when we watch videos, these gun tubers, they're great, but sometimes they'll say things, and even I sometimes don't understand exactly, or just recently learned what that means, the term that they use. And so I want to be able to have people just watch my videos and be able to understand it without having to go to another video or source to find out what it means, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said you guys started off at short form content and brought it over to long form. A lot of people start with short form and then the long form doesn't perform as well. How have you seen the transition from short form over to long form, and has your audience adjusted to that?
I think they're finally adjusting to it. We've had a couple videos kind of blow up, so that's helped. But at first, I mean, even now it's still kind of like it's a long game or long-term game, so.
Yeah, you can't really, I mean, you can't really expect success in long form quickly.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think shorts prepare people for like immediate success.
Right.
Whereas long form, it's a gradual buildup. And that's even true no matter how many subscribers you have. Like, when we started actually putting out videos, Alyssa was like, hey, I want to make this a thing, and can you help me with the long form and develop the long form? I was like, oh wow, you have all these subscribers at first. This must mean that immediately our long form is going to kick off. Because at the time you had around 100,000, I think, from just the shorts, and that was just not the case. But we had to treat it like this is a fresh channel. This is new, and then also too, like we really need to find out what the audience wants.
Right. I think that was the biggest thing. I have this audience kind of in the short form, but like, what do they want? Who are they? What are they here for, basically? Yeah,
the trick is nailing the two. Like, what is short audiences want is like quick information or quick entertainment. That's a different audience and different age group, frankly, than the long form audience who is searching for deep answers into problems that they're facing. And so that's why we script our videos. We both look at them and say, does this serve people who are looking this question up? We recently did a law one or traveling with firearms and tried to nail as much information as we can without being too lengthy. And that was something that we workshopped a lot on, just to make sure we were actually having people walk away from the video being like, I understand this and I know what I'm going to do if I got to cross state lines or go to this state and such. And so, it took us, I don't know, probably a year and a half now to, I would say, feel confident with our scripting process and get some predictability in numbers. But that comes with a lot of like research and time and trial and error, to be honest, from our experience.
And some videos we think they're going to do great and then they don't. And then like I did a video on like hammer fire versus striker fire, and Tanner, at first he was like, okay, that's like stupid.
Basic,
like that's not going to do good. Yeah. And then it like did way better than we thought. I'm like, hey, I don't know, but it works. So
you did well on it. So
yeah.
Well, and that's the thing that a lot of people, when you get into doing YouTube and things like that, most people start off with shorts and you see instant success that builds you up because it is a different audience. It's a different, really quick. Where a lot of people don't look at it for long form is that it's evergreen content that's going to live there. Where short form lives for a short period of time, the long form is going to live there for a long time. Get a buildup of audience where a video may have. You may go 2 weeks and it's like, oh, it's only got 500 views. I'm kind of like, this sucked. I'm mad. And then 3 weeks later or a year later, it'll blow up to like 60,000 views just because people are now all of a sudden looking for that. So when you look into things like that with your content and you're starting to build up that audience and things like that, how do you play with the metrics, the numbers? You look at that, go, hey, is this going to go? Does my SEO scores look good? Does my overall, am I tagging right? Do I need to change tags? Do I need to change title? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I feel like you're more on the marketing side. That's your background. So I feel like you have probably better analytical, like an answer for that. Just more surface level on my side. I try to mix the hammer versus striker fire. That one, I feel like people are going to be searching that for a long time, right? Forever. And then there's some videos that let's say a gun first comes out and it first launches, I feel like a lot of people are going to search for that and then it might die over time. So kind of balancing the two videos that are going to kind of be long-term, like gradually increase. And then some that might be like at first might get a lot of views and then kind of dip down. Kind of mixing the two is what I've tried to do as far as like when I'm scripting videos and thinking about ideas. And then I know you do a lot of like looking on the back end and looking as far as like marketing and SEO and all that stuff. So you can talk on that.
Yeah, it's we watch a lot of Hell's Kitchen. So like
yeah, that's what we're binging right now.
Hell's Kitchen reference, but you know, you have your main dish, which is like your proteins, your meat, your steak, and then you have what's called garnish, which is like the stuff on the side, the potatoes, whatever. And I always think like if your steak's not good, then the meal's not good, no matter how much garnish or how good your garnish is. And so what I try and do is like we both brainstorm the ideas. She'll come up with something that she feels passionate about, whether it's research on Reddit, and you know, we'll kind of look at it for SEO terms, like how much is this getting searched? How much competition does it actually have? Do people do it better than us? Because we don't want to put something out if we can't like have a different way of answering the same question or a better way. And so if we feel like, hey, this question's been answered, this guy's got a great video, we can't do better than that, then I think we just move on at that point because we don't want to muddy the waters. But
it depends because I'm mentioning the same video, but like the hammer versus striker fire, I watched a ton of videos and just trying to see what other people are saying about it. And I was like, okay, hold up. I feel like nobody's addressing like this specific point or saying it in this specific way.
Yeah.
And so I saw a gap in the videos on YouTube and I'm talking about myself, right? But like, I felt like I did it, maybe not in a better way, but in a different way than,
for like newcomers.
Approachable way.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of comments like, oh, thank you for explaining it. Like, this makes sense to me. I just watched someone else who said this and I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
But you said it in a way that I could understand. So it kind of depends too.
That's exactly it. And then to kind of answer like the long-term thing, you know, absolutely, like some videos have recently popped off because there's regained interest in things. Staccato HD is a good example of that. So our HD video wasn't like great off the bat. Now there's a resurgence.
Even like the Staccato factory tour, like I think it was like 6 months later, it like jumped up. So
and then, but yeah, it's hard to predict the future.
Yeah.
Things change a lot and quickly. But it depends. If I'm answering this for somebody who wants to start their channel, I'd always start with something you're passionate about, irregardless of searchability, because you're gonna suck for a year. You're gonna eat crap for a year until you figure it out. And if you're not passionate about it, that's gonna drain your battery. You're gonna come home angry. You're gonna be pissed off that things aren't working, and it's not gonna be fun for you. Like, luckily, this is fun for me, filming and shooting. This is fun for her because she loves to shoot and she's honestly answering questions that she has.
Yeah.
And is like, well, let's see if other people have these questions. And so her gap, I would say from the beginning of this year, since we started this approach to now, her knowledge gap has I don't want to say decreased is the right word, but in order to teach it, you have to learn it yourself. And so she'll do months of research.
That's the most fun part about like scripting videos is like diving into it and learning as much as I can. And then again, like you said, like being able to teach it and like say it in a way that people understand.
And so she's a talented bookworm, I'll say it that, where I'm more street smarts and things. But, this wouldn't work if we weren't enjoying what we do in the first place, because we would have quit a long time ago. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I love that you are taking things from a practical approach and not, kind of overthinking it in so many ways, because, we're seeing more and more gun ownership, new gun owners. Women are the fastest growing demographic, and you are very humbly admitting, I don't know everything. And I'm going to research what I don't know. And then I'm going to share that love and that passion for firearms to make the next person better. And imagine where the Second Amendment community would be if we all took that approach with whatever it is within the 2A space that we feel deficient in ourselves. And I think that's a lot of why you're seeing this catapult to success. And, that evergreen content that you were saying is because there every time that there's a new gun owner, there's going to be a new gun owner with a question. And so I think those educational resources are way more valuable than I think even you recognize, because there's always going to be that next person in line. And if we do our job right, there's more than one, right? There's a whole a movement and a migration into the 2A space.
Yeah, for sure.
What would be your kind of practical advice, your 3 steps to success for someone who is wanting to maybe get into the firearms space or take their knowledge base to the next level?
I'd say for me, what really kind of took mine to the next level was just going out and getting more experience and doing it with people who were better than me and learning from instructors. Like we went to Ohio Range Day, which is hosted by Achilles Heel Tactical, and Rick over there, and then all the instructors he had at that event, they were just phenomenal. And that was at the point where I was like efficient enough with firearms that I can hold my own, but I wasn't like proficient with them. And so that really was like, I feel like one of the biggest steps that I took. And it really made me a better shooter, and just learning from great instructors. And yeah, I feel like that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think in my case, I have a bit of a unique path because I worked in the space for a long time. So my offices were like littered with guns. Every person would have a gun on their desks, it's like kind of thing, and not loaded or anything. It was a safe environment, but I was, in ranges, and I had a range right next to, where I worked. And so like, guns were part of the ecosystem, the culture, the environment. And it's just like, for me, it's much more of a caveman approach where it's like, you just do it until you succeed. And I'm just kind of that caveman kind of guy where it's like, first thing I do with a firearm is I'll get familiar with it. Like when I got the APC, I was just like finagling it. I took it apart, put it back together. I was like interested in how all these components worked, and just felt like, I feel like the more you play around with it, of course, in a safe environment, dry fire, all that stuff. But, like the more you hang around the gun, the quicker it becomes like a part of you, and you start pointing, you get your natural, like, I don't want to call it natural point of aim because there's a lot of debate on what that term actually means. But, you start feeling like, yeah, this is how that gun gets into my shoulder or pistol. This is how I roll my hands out. And then the instructors are just like gasoline on the fire, like she said, where it's the instructors for me kind of pieced the puzzle together when I was like having issues shooting or trying to get better. I'd hit roadblocks back in the day. And then Rick would just put it in a simple term of rethinking, okay, this is what happens when you're shooting. And if it's hitting low to the left or up to the right, whatever it is, let's rethink the process that you have, and then figure out what could push that bullet that way, and then try and correct it step by step. And anyway, so for me, it was just like making guns a lifestyle, improve my shooting far faster. And now that we're both into it, and we have we kind of sectioned off our basement area, our studio area, so that way it's just in a safe space. But we'll come down here and dry fire. We've got the ACE. We dry, we do a ton of gun manipulation work every day, if not. And so we get familiar and pretty competent with guns pretty quickly because it's just part of our lifestyle. You know, this is like our hangout space, and I feel like it, if it's possible for you to be dry firing all the time or whatever, get home, put some time with your gun and your firearm. That helps. That translates to the range a ton. So yeah, I guess, kind of boiling it down, it's just handle your gun, right?
Yeah. I mean, first off, we got to mention, you got to be safe. I know you already mentioned that, but as long as because that first step, you really have to know how to be safe with it and know how it works first off, because if you don't really know how it all works, you're not going to improve, right? You're not going to get better with it. And then once you know how to be safe and everything, then you can have some fun, right? And be able to dry fire and get just that experience, just handling a firearm and knowing how everything works and being able to manipulate it on your own. And then I really got into it when I started to treat it like it's a sport and got into the sport world, like competition side of things. I started with tactical games. This year we're getting into USPSA, and that's really where it really became like fun for us. And so if you can get to the point where it's fun and it doesn't feel like, oh, I have this for self-protection, which is a great thing. But I feel like sometimes that might feel like a burden. Because I mean, many people just have a gun and then it sits in the safe all year. But if you can get to the point where it's fun and maybe turn it into competition, start doing competitions if you want. And then you'll get more experience and then become proficient with it.
I mean, on that point, where she was talking about, a lot of people have guns for self-defense. If you think of a gun and it's only for self-defense, then you kind of, and not to say like, yes, this is the backbone, Second Amendment. I absolutely love that we have the freedoms we have here in the States. But the moment you treat firearms with a passion and a hobbyist attitude, I think the more you touch them, the more you handle them, the more you have fun with them, the more you go out to the range. If you make your experience with firearms fun and enjoyable, not just for you, but for your family, for loved ones, for people you want to take out and have fun shooting, like it becomes an activity. And that makes you a better shooter far more than just thinking of it only as a self-defense tool, because then you're just going to default to the gun's over in the corner and I only touch it when things go bad. And so therefore never going to touch it until things go bad and then I don't know what to do, right? So having kind of an attitude of, like you mentioned, competition shooting. I'm going to throw my sister under the bus here. She's awesome, firefighter, wonderful sister. She's never really touched guns up until these later years in her life. And she was doing it because you got into the competition side in tactical games, and she was like, that looks fun. And that spoke to me. My sister's extremely buff, extremely fit. She's a firefighter. And she never was into the CrossFit space, but she was a soccer player for a time, and she has that competitive nature. She's now handling firearms way more in the last year. Yeah. And we've seen her every range day get way more competent. When she started, she was like this. And last range day, she's locked in, with a pistol. And it's just that mentality of clicking that guns aren't just for killing and maiming. And so I only need it when that happens. But guns are also like this enthusiast thing and can be used for so much more things. And just something to connect us as a family. Just seeing that change in her was like, holy crap, for me, a learning experience. I'm like, this is how Americans can get into firearms.
This is brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Use code GOA for 1 month free for a freedom-loving mobile service. Patriot Mobile is a pro-freedom mobile carrier. They use the same towers as the big brands, and even to the point where if you have, you can switch between networks, between AT&T and Verizon and all that, just because Patriot Mobile does that for you. So use code GOA for 1 month free at Patriot Mobile.
So it's time for our segment From the Soapbox, where we dive into a little bit more of the spicier side of things. So I wanted to ask, out of everything that we're seeing with the 2A movement, where do you feel like our weak spots are when it comes to speaking to people who are outside of the gun culture?
Ooh, that is a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta think about this. Do you have anything to say immedially?
I feel like I talked a lot, but I'll try and keep it concise here. But I think it is the hobbyist nature of firearms. Trying to highlight the sport aspect of it, and rely on the merits of it's a fun thing for people to get into. It's not a political thing. It's not always death and destruction and whatever military hoorah, which is awesome. Again, there's that aspect to it of very much enjoyed. But yeah, just speaking more to the hobbyist nature and trying to highlight, even internationally. I mean, we recently had an international shooting competition that was hosted in Europe, and the amount of people internationally getting involved in firearms is absolutely cool. This isn't exclusive to, this doesn't have to be exclusive to America. We can hopefully spread this to around the world and hopefully inspire other people to take action to, I would say, regain their rights in other countries. But from an American standpoint, I think we can do better at showing the hobby side of shooting. And from an enthusiast, normal perspective, that's kind of where I'd say. Yeah.
And even along the lines of gun laws and all of that, it really comes down to our freedom, if we really think about it. So it may not seem like outside of the industry, Maybe a small little gun law may not seem like the biggest deal to some people, but it's a huge deal when you think about it, because if these people are taking these small steps and inching away at like taking our freedom away, then like eventually we'll be like we've seen with Canada. Sorry, I'm like kind of rambling, but we've seen like with Canada and other like countries, just their rights being slowly taken away. And I feel like there's a lot that we can do as Americans. And as long as we educate people, I feel like we have a strong backbone to be able to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
What I love about what you said here, I'll save you.
Thank you.
What I love about what you said, though, is we want to see more people come into the fold. And there's a level of that also affects the international community. When you think about America and you think about freedom, we think of the firearms, and there's a lot of restoration that has to be done here at home. But, being the global hegemon, the impact that we can have of showing, the fun side, the shooting sports, getting people back into hunting. I mean, if we look at, for example, the average age of a hunter, that we could be losing the hunting tradition if we don't correct. And so much of the Second Amendment community needs to be about sharing with others, and so that people can look at the gun culture in the U.S. and not see a narrative that is talked about or is pushed by big tech and those that have a set agenda, but rather what true gun ownership looks like, which is personal responsibility, which is freedom, which is very family focused in so many ways. And so the fact that you guys are out there doing international competitions and, sharing a love of firearms with not only your friends in the US, but abroad, really helps move the movement forward. Because, we talk a lot about how government wants to pretend that they gifted us our rights, when in fact the Constitution is to protect our rights, because our rights are, natural rights. They precede government. They are protected. The Constitution is to protect those rights, not to grant those rights. And that means these countries that are in far worse shape as far as Second Amendment rights go, those people also have these inalienable rights. It's just their government doesn't recognize it, and maybe they don't have the courage to recognize it themselves. But the more that we show gun ownership and the more that we are able to protect those rights, because the United States is the superpower, the more we can have a positive effect on the entire world's view on guns.
Yeah. I do want to make a just small correction, just so audience is clear. We haven't done any competitions internationally. I speak a lot about the international side of things just because that's my work in automotive space. And so just small correction, but 100% agree with you there. I always think, just want to make that clear, but I always think in the terms of international, just because, like I said, we have a lot of friends that are international at this point, just through the car connection. It is felt around the world. Europeans are extremely pissed with their government and the firearms policies. And another side of it too is the whole Russia and Ukraine situation going on right now, where Poland is pushing hard. There's a big Polish movement to, I would say, like you said, restore their rights to protect and self-defense and have what we would call, our own militia, but independent security at that point, because it's become a real topic for them. And they're a lot closer to those situations than us Americans have ever been. So, I'm a big advocate for a lot of our European friends to have the rights that we get blessed with, but also we're currently working to restore, like you mentioned. So,
yeah, hearing you talk about your conversations with them and having a few conversations myself with some of your European friends, it's been interesting to see the perspective, because it's just something I've never kind of thought about, because I don't travel international a whole lot. And so hearing some of those stories and just their perspectives, it kind of just like we're so similar in so many ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, they're just like us with less rights.
Funny you bring up Europe, and it's funny, we've talked about it on other episodes where we talk about Europeans wanting their gun rights back, and some European countries and how that have gun laws, as the average American looks at Europe and goes, oh, it's like Great Britain, because they don't know any better. They lump Great Britain in with all their anti-gun stuff because that's what we hear the most about. In Europe, there's a lot of countries in Europe that have guns. Now, you did bring up something, Alyssa brought up something interesting earlier, was Canada and the rights being stripped away from Canadian citizens. And we're seeing a few that I know of that have moved down from Canada into the US to keep those rights. You know, do you guys have anything you want to touch on that?
I mean, we don't have any like personal ties. I guess my brother-in-law is from Canada, and he still has family out there, but we don't have, other than that, we don't have a whole lot of like personal ties. I just get a lot of comments in my YouTube talking, like people from Canada, and talking about just, oh, I wish we could do that here, or, oh, in Canada, we just had this and this and this. So I hear a lot about it, mainly, honestly, from comments on YouTube is where I get most of kind of just hearing about it.
Well,
I'd say like one case that we do have is a lot of Californians moved to Utah and Colorado too. Colorado just had some recent stuff get pushed, apparently. I don't know, you guys probably are more aware of that than what I surface level knowledge, but we get all the time here in Utah is just how much freer it feels. We have a couple Californian friends that were like, I just feel different here because I don't feel restricted and feel like a criminal, or feel like, you know, my door is going to be busted in because I put the wrong accessory on my gun, you know, like that's something we get a lot, but that's more interstate than Canada at this point. But yeah.
Well, I love how you brought up the YouTube comments from people in Canada and things like that. And that's one of the cool thing about doing YouTube is the comments that you get from other countries. So I've gotten comments from Croatia. When the Kuna came out, people were like commenting about the Kuna and from Croatia. I've had comments from Brazil when I do tour stuff, the comments from Brazil, the Brazilian people coming in and just getting their different perspectives. I remember I got a comment the one time we we're talking about the price of this gun in the US, and we're talking about it. And somebody commented, it's like, oh, in Lebanon, this gun is $1,400. It's $300 in the US, $1,400 in Lebanon. And it was Lebanon or somewhere on that side of the globe. I can't point fingers on the globe. I'm not very smart. I don't claim to be, but it's just cool to see. Not only do you doing YouTube, you're able to connect with an audience in the US, and most of the comments and most of the stuff comes from the US and you get to talk to them. But the international stuff is really cool to see how the gun community is not just a US thing, but it does spread throughout the world.
Yeah, that's been one of the coolest things. We just had someone on the latest video we just uploaded. They're like, hey, do a video on like UK gun laws next, because they're from the UK. And so we're like, okay, if we get 150 likes on this comment, like we'll do it. So it's cool, like seeing just international, that community just come together. It's been pretty cool.
I think that comment has 135 likes right now.
It was very close.
So
we might be coming out with a video on that.
Hey, gun laws thing.
But yeah.
Next time, make it 250.
Yeah.
Up the bar a little.
But that's awesome. That's awesome what you guys are able to do and build that community. And it's so vital to the Second Amendment. You know, I think of several of the people we've been fortunate enough to meet at events. I remember one of my first years at GOA, I was part of our activism training. So the gun rights activism classes that we teach all over the place. And I was in Arizona and teaching a class, and this gentleman comes up to me and he's like, you have no idea how important it is for us to make sure we keep the Second Amendment. And he had actually become a U.S. citizen, immigrated from Australia because of the gun buybacks and everything that was going there. And he's like, you don't understand how valuable it is until it's taken away and there's nothing that you can do about it. And he's like, I refuse to live in a country that and go through this a second time. And so it was becoming an activist and had become a citizen. And those are the stories that really impact somebody. And all of these years later, I still remember him from that class because, this is somebody who left his family, his career, and started all over again in the United States because the Second Amendment was that valuable to him. And then now he was going to do whatever it took to ensure that it was going to remain for his son and now his grandchildren. And I think that's so important for us, who sit in a place of privilege where we have a Second Amendment in this country, to recognize that and to constantly be reminding ourselves that we not only need to defend our rights, but we also need to restore those that have already been taken from us.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier for them to take our rights away than it is to get them back, basically.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the suppressor that right now, the Hearing Protection Act that's getting passed through. It's almost been, I think, 100 years since we've had that tax. Correct me if I'm wrong on suppressors. I think it's been since the end. Were they the first things included in the FA?
Yep.
Since 34.
Okay, so almost 100 years, and we're just now the closest we've ever been to be able to pull some of our rights back. Almost a century of work to get to. We don't even have it yet, but it's taken us this long to get that far. And I think a part of that is once it's taken away, the pool of people who can participate, or let's take SBRs. Once you start seeing less and less of it, subconsciously in the culture's mind, you start thinking that it's illegal or it's wrong, or you can't do it or you shouldn't be able to do it. There's that sense of groupthink that the less you see of something, the more wrong it becomes, right? And you subtly can change a society by removing things from social media, for example. With how many things get shadow banned or blocked, there's a stigma about guns that it's wrong to have a gun in some people's mind because they just don't see it as often, right?
Well, I even used to be afraid of guns, when I was younger, before I met you, really, honestly, because you got me into them. But I used to look at one and kind of I don't know, be afraid a little bit, right? Because I didn't know how it works. I did not know how to be safe with it, so I just kind of stayed away, right?
Yeah. So I mean, once you take it away, it to your point, it becomes so much harder to fight back for them. You become so isolated, and it's so important for us as citizens of the United States to hold on with all we can do to cling on to our rights. Because like I said, once it's taken away, once social media decides to not show it, that's just more people who will be against you, more people you have to fight against you, who won't be able to see the fun side of it, the good side of it, the good side that firearms actually brings. In general, in all cases, I think firearms are more good than they are bad. We see it in the stats with self-defense stats in firearms used to prevent crimes, and we see it in honestly the people that we meet and the joy it brings in the hobbyist enthusiast side of how it gets people outdoors. Reality is that it is overall good on all cylinders, and I think most people, because it's become a politicized thing, because social media bans it, there's a stigma that guns are bad because so and so says so, or because Instagram shadow bans it. And
I mean, it's hard to even show education these days. So
even YouTube, we fight uphill battle every day with a video getting demonetized or age restricted or whatever. It's random, and we have to appeal it. Every video we upload on YouTube, we have to go through an appeal process. It is automatically demonetized. You have to go through appeal and then go sometimes even further and then get somebody to actually watch and review the video. They'll always send us timestamp that doesn't correspond. There's so much bull crap that you start to feel like you're a bad guy because they're telling you you're a bad guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm like whenever we're uploading videos, I'm like, okay, what are they going to like ding on here?
Yeah.
And I hate having to like look through the lens of that because it's not accurate. Like everything we're doing is safe and it's educational and it's great stuff in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I hate having to like go off of, YouTube's guidelines, right? Because it's not fair and it's not right.
Yeah. I will say this about anyone who's trying to think about becoming a gun tuber is that you have to look at yourself as a villain and see how they're going to criticize you. Because they will come after you, and it will be random and it will be scary. And we had a few weeks ago, like I had just lost my job. We decided we're going with this full time. And right at that moment, they demonetized like several videos and were coming after us for inexplicable reason. And we had to fight each one of those videos and appeal it. Which we won. We won the appeals, but it's just funny. They'll say illegal firearms were shown at this point, and it's a marker where it's her explaining ammunition, and it's like doesn't even make sense. And it's just again like kind of I guess going into the censorship of things. Back to the original statement, like once they start censoring you, once the government starts censoring you and saying you can't own this, this, and this, it's just more uneducated people making more legislation about things they don't know and gatekeeping other people from even getting introduced to that. It just close on that. Like, don't lose your rights.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up demonetization. The crazy part is like I've had videos that have been fully monetized. Then I'll go in and I'll change either a tag or the title to help with SEO and searchability after it's been out for a little bit to just re-kick it off, instantly demonetize. And then get reviewed and then confirm the demonetize after it was monetized. Yeah. It makes no sense. The people at YouTube make no sense. I'm just going to say it. They don't know their own policy. They don't follow their own policy. You can follow their policy to the T.
Yeah.
And still get demonetized.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We've had so much issues and it all boils down to lack of education or dishonesty, right? Either they're not educated and they don't understand, no, this is not a fully automatic gun because we're firing it semi-auto or, whatever it is. Like, they don't understand the difference and they should watch some of our videos so they can understand, hopefully, or
they
watch
also only have like a certain amount of time. So it's hard when
don't justify that.
Well, I'm not justifying that. But you're not going to expect everyone to be
it comes down to either they're not educated and they should be looking up the videos that they're trying to demonetize. They can learn some things.
Like if someone's reviewing something for firearms, they should at least know like the guidelines and right.
And same with politicians. They just do not know. And that's the whole thing is like most firearms YouTubers who are successful are based off education. We're trying to teach people how these things work, to be safe, to know their rights, to know the laws. And it's getting gatekept, which is making people extremely stupid. Because they're just gatekeeping information, at that point. And that's the biggest frustration for us is when we look at our content as trying to provide a service, or always trying to provide a service, and you only win when you think of it. How am I going to serve the people today with these videos? How am I going to educate and inspire and entertain? And YouTube demonizes you for trying to educate.
Well, on that note, we have to wrap up. So go ahead and tell the folks where they can find you guys at. Yeah.
So YouTube is just Alyssa Seymour. Instagram is at the GunnyGal. And do you want to throw yours out there?
If you find her, you'll find me. So
fair.
Yeah.
Well, we enjoyed you being on. We really appreciate it. Thank you again. Before we go, we have a little gift for you. So AAC Ammo and Palmetto State Armory have sponsored our gifts for our guests for this year. So you guys will be getting a gift from AAC Ammo and Palmetto State Armory.
Sweet.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Maybe we'll have enough ammo I can shoot some.
I hog it all.
By the time we're done filming, all of it's gone. I'm like, dang it.
Well, hopefully they will give you ammo. Guys, again, appreciate it. everybody out there, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell for notification. Make sure to join us at Goals. That's the Gun Owners Advocacy and Leadership Summit happening August 9th and 10th in beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee. Go to gunowners.org/goals to register today. And we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.